It's Monday, June 27th, and this is Drive Check, a Cardfight Vanguard podcast.
Tell the difference in...
Do you have a different relationship with your sister than you do with your brother?
Well, that whole thing is messed up, but yeah, I have a different relationship with my sister and my brother.
Because you play soccer with your brother.
Yeah, I used to play soccer with my sister too, but then she became a teenager.
What about you, Jack? How about you, your brothers and sisters? Do you treat them differently?
Not really. Kind of
like... Your
like...
sister's older?
No, I'm oldest.
By 8 years?
Not by that much. I have a sister that's like 2 years younger than me, and then I have another one that's 4 years younger than me.
There you go.
Yeah.
So then your brother's just like the little list.
He's a little guy, yeah.
So you want to talk about some Vanguard?
No, I thought this was the life story podcast.
This is the let Will analyze your family dynamics podcast. No, we'll get into that some more at another time, because the way that you interact with your siblings actually informs the way that you play Vanguard. You just aren't aware of that yet.
Well, see, I'm not actually biologically related to any of my family members because I'm from the planet Cray.
You are the planet Cray.
I am the planet Cray. You're correct.
You are speaking to us, humans, deigning to come down to Earth because you need humans to sort out all of your troubles for some reason. Although I haven't gotten that far in Asia Circuit yet, so don't spoilers. Thank you. Oh. So, Cole, did you get to play any Vanguard?
Well, sure,
recently?
I did. Last night.
Oh, well, besides me and you playing.
No.
Yeah, Will doesn't count as a real opponent.
Oh. No.
Hey,
really
we tied.
No, I had to help my mom move on Saturday, so I didn't go to League. Which is,
no card shop for you.
Which is okay. It's fine.
And Jack, what have you been able to play lately?
I went to a big kind of like hobby, not really a convention thing, but it's in a big warehouse in Southern California. It's called Frankensons. So it's like a big collectible show where you have a bunch of card games and you have a bunch of like collectible things. And it's like, there's a lot of vendors there. So you can generally, because I had to pick up some stuff to finish up my Kagero deck and my Angel Feather deck. So I went and picked up all the cards I needed and then played a couple games with my friend.
How far away was that?
45-minute drive. It's not that far.
Oh, that's not so bad. That's usually if I want to drive to Annapolis or if I want to drive to Centerville. That's usually 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't too bad. And I've never been, so it's kind of a cool experience to just see because it's like this massive. But it was one of the hottest days of the summer, and there's not really any air conditioning in there, so that was fun.
In California?
Oh, I know.
And it's only June. It's not even July yet or August. So, yeah, I played some with Alan on Thursday night, and then I got to play with Cole. I do want to change up my deck a little bit, my Link Jokers. I was going off an economy build, and I've gotten some more of the more expensive cards that I can fit in there. Still no Amnesty Messiah, but I'm working around that and seeing what I can do without old Amnesty. But, you know, I do have now my 3 Exilix that I can't even use.
Proxies are a thing.
If somebody will allow me to use proxies, I would still feel guilty about it.
I always play with proxies until I end up actually finishing my decks.
Well, that's because you play with different people than I do. I don't know. Maybe you're just more comfortable with the people you're playing with, I think.
Maybe.
They did have on Saturday, this past Saturday, at the card shop I've recently been going to, Island Games, the Dynasty Cup had the Summer Wars is what it's called, and it's like a competition for Mid-Atlantic Vanguard players. It's not super official or anything. It's really just the card shops have agreed to host this tournament, and then they'll have like the Dynasty Cup championship later. But they had another round locally, and I'll see if I can get the deck information for a later episode and go over what the winning deck was for the Dynasty Cup. But those dudes are like hardcore. So seeing as I play against some of them, it's just definitely beyond my skill level at this point in time. I do have an errata this week. We did talk, I don't want to say a long time ago because this is only episode 15. But I wanted to correct myself on activated abilities, the ones that are marked with an ACT. I had not understood that activated abilities can only be used during the main phase. So that is after your ride phase when you start calling and doing those kinds of things. That's when you can use activated abilities. Once you start attacking, you can no longer use activated abilities. So I was not clear on that, and I just wanted to clear that up so that people don't make mistakes like I had a tendency to do and will never, ever do again. So, Jack, I see you've added in some news items here. What did you want to talk about with these news things?
The new Bermuda Triangle set was released in Japan. And one of the main points of our discussion last week was the Amnesty Messiah reprint. And one thing that people opening cases and boxes of the Bermuda Triangle set is that Olivia, the GR that was getting a reprint as a rare in this set, she wasn't printed as she was printed in like the rare foiling, but she was not coming up in several copies per box like most rares do. She ended up only being 5 per case, so the same rarity as her GR version was. So it kind of leads to believe that the Amnesty Messiah reprint will be similar in that.
Don't you spread lies. Do not you spread
lies.
Well,
the rare version, because like the cheapest GRs we have are like 20 to 30. So I think Amnesty, the rare foil will probably be around 20, 25, if I could guess. And then the GR version will probably stay where it's at, because people are going to want the GR foiling instead of the rare foiling. But that's still better than $75. Well, you can't complain.
Yeah, it's down to $60.
Oh, okay. So, well, before when it was like $80.
Yes, and I did complain every single day, and I cried because I don't want to use proxies. So for my news item, I wanted to bring up that Bushiroad has listed out for the World Championships, which are coming up in the fall, what the actual regional locations will be. So this is as opposed to the Spring Fests, which are a team tournament, the World Championship and the regionals are a single you are the only player, no team type of tournament. It is a Swiss round, 2 losses and you're out for Vanguard, or it's modified Swiss, double elimination, so 2 losses and you're out. And each round is best of 1, not best of 3. And 25 minutes per round. Man, I tell you something, Pokemon could learn something from Bushiroad on this thing, because Pokemon TCG tournaments will go on for like 12 to 14 hours because they have 45 or 55 minute rounds. This time limit, 25 minutes per round, that'll speed you right through. Plus 2 and you're out. Pokemon tournaments never knock anybody out. You can play every single round. So this will be a much speedier type of tournament. And I'm going to list out what the locations and dates are so people can start to prepare and plan for where they're going to be. And we'll follow up as the regional qualifiers actually occur and we head towards the World Championships. Possibly I might convince somebody to go to one of these locations and we'll actually compete at one of these for fun. I can't see any reason why Jack won't be competing in the California one.
Oh yeah, there's 2 California ones, I think.
When he's pledging a frat, and those days of Vanguard will be behind him. So, looks like the first one will be in White Plains, New York. which typically would be my chosen one that I would want to attend, but it is August 6th and 7th, which is when I will still be at Gen Con, so that's not a possibility. Next after that is Puerto Rico in Caguas, August 20th to 21st. And Alan is from Puerto Rico.
So you'll be attending that one.
I accept that is new student orientation at Georgetown, and I have to work, so I will not be able to attend that one.
No Puerto Rico. Oh, darn.
But then there is Georgia, August 27th and 28th, which is a possibility in Atlanta. Canada in Toronto, September 10th and 11th. Canada, Vancouver, September 24th, 25th. Costa Rica, a town called San Jose. I really don't know anything about Costa Rica, but September 24th. And then Chile in Santiago, which I believe is the capital of Chile, on October 1st. Mexico City, October 8th and 9th. USA, California in Pomona. Where's Pomona? North, South California?
It's middle, kind of south, it's more southern.
Okay, that's October 22nd and 23rd. Then Chicago, Illinois, October 29th and 30th. That's when I'm doing the Marine Corps Marathon, so I won't be able to go to that one.
Oh, just kidding. Pomona's southern. I'm an idiot.
Your geography is not so good. That's
yeah.
Okay. And then Houston, Texas, November 5th and 6th. The Europe locations, there is UK in Telford, August 27th and 28th. Rome, Italy, September 4th. Brussels, Belgium, September 10th. Athens, Greece, September 24th, 25th. Cologne, Germany, Cologne, Germany, October 29th, 30th. And Paris, France. No date has been set yet. And then the last set is in Asia, Oceania, Melbourne, Australia, September 3rd, 4th. Auckland, New Zealand, October 1st and 2nd. Jakarta, Indonesia, October 15th, 16th. Manila, Philippines, October 15th, 16th. Singapore, because it's just one city, October 29th and 30th. Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, October 29th and 30th. Cebu in the Philippines, which I know somebody who lives there, November 5th. And then Surabaya in Indonesia on November 6th. One thing to keep in mind, if you are from one region, you cannot compete in the competitions of another region. So somebody from North America or Latin America cannot compete in the European or the Asia Oceania regionals, and like somebody from, say, Australia can't come to North America and compete in those competitions. You have to be from the region where the competition is being held. But people from California are welcome to fly to New York and go to the beautiful Westchester County Convention Center or Westchester County Center to play if they want to make all of that effort. I'm only going to go over the Vanguard stuff, but there is a promo card that is a Royal Paladin Sonical. I don't know what it does. They've got promo deck cases, which look like they're big enough to hold both a full deck and a full G deck. And then the winners receive gold pins that just say, the top 8 receive top 8 pins. And I think the finalists, the top 4, get certificates of the position that they completed in, and then they get sponsorship for hotel and travel to the World Championships, which I don't think they've announced the location for the World Championships yet, have they?
Hong Kong sounds familiar.
It does, but I'm not sure. Well, we'll look into that and we'll see where the World Championships will actually be held. There are side events that are going to be held at all of these regional locations. One specifically that they mention is a Luck and Logic side event. So that's open to anybody. Luck and Logic is too new at this point for them to have an actual competition. But Cole, you got some of the Luck and Logic cards, right?
Oh yeah.
What do you think?
I'm learning to play right now, but I am a graphic designer and I freaking love the product design that Luck and Logic has. It's so crisp and clean and beautiful, and the cards are pretty too. A lot of fan service on the cards, sadly, but
Yeah, that'll pass with time.
I hope so.
Are they big boy cards or are they
Yeah,
little boy
they're
cards?
standard cards,
Okay.
and as far as
That is the official term of Drive Check.
big
Big boy cards versus little boy cards. According to Jack, that's how you differentiate who the intended audience for a game is. They will also have free fights, which are basically, I guess, just side event fights where anybody can walk in and you can compete. And they're going to have promo cards that are specifically for the participating in the free fight. And the Vanguard promo card is a Kagero. I can't see it because the text is really, really small. Endless Flare Dragon, which I don't think that is of any interest. I mean, I don't care about Royal Paladins. I don't care about Kagero. So whatever. Keep your promos. Sell them on the internet.
You can't stop the flames of the apocalypse.
Sell them to Jack. He needs all the Kagero love that he can get.
Yeah, World Finals are in Japan, and then Nationals are in Los Angeles for America, Dusseldorf for Europe, and for Asia Oceania it's TBD.
Did you just call me a Dusseldorf?
Yep, I did. You Dusseldorf.
That's very rude. You young people need to learn to respect your elders, not make fun of us. All right. Is that everything we have for news? Is there any other news that I may have missed out on?
I think that's it.
I think we're good.
Well, if we missed anything, then next week's errata will be the news section. So since this is a 5 episode, I want to kind of start up and continue the tradition that on the 5 episodes, we do something that's a little different from gameplay, although I think this is actually going to be about gameplay, but not necessarily reviewing the clans and the decks and everything like that, but more of freeform discussion that's different than the actual world. So yesterday evening, I posted the question to Cole and Jack, if they could determine what the next thing to happen in Vanguard would be, whether that's a new mechanic, a new type of card, or a change in the rules that would affect the way that Vanguard is played, much along the lines of, how Limit Break was introduced, how Legion was introduced, how Stride was introduced. Those were new things that were added that changed the way the game was played. What would they want? What do they want to see? Or what could they project seeing as coming up as the next thing, but not to tell each other, so that we'd all be surprised by what everybody has selected. Now, I hope everybody hasn't selected the same thing, because that would be awkward.
Yeah.
But we will have a discussion of what we were all thinking about. And I have several things. So I was going to go first, but I will actually let Cole go first, just in case he has selected one of the things I was thinking of. And then I'll let Jack go, because I have such a collection of things that I've been thinking of that would be interesting, that if one of them picks the same thing as me, then I'll still have other things. So Cole, why don't you go first? What would you like to see as the next thing in Vanguard?
All right. I had one idea before, and then I got another one while we were talking, and I think
one idea.
Yeah,
You're only allowed one idea.
I was gonna say I'm gonna save that one for later because I want to flesh that one out. But I think it'd be kind of interesting if they introduce a new kind of trigger, and I was trying to think of one that we've already that we don't have, and I was thinking of like an instant damage trigger, so not like a crit where that only deals damage on your attack, but when you trigger it, it automatically deals 1 damage to your opponent. And I think that to kind of keep that balance, you'd have like maybe 1 or 2 in the deck, in your 16 trigger slot, you'd only use up 1 or 2 slots.
So it would be limited like a heal trigger?
Yeah, kind of like a heal trigger.
Okay.
That sounds really broken. Like just to be, because you're just like they're at 5 damage, they're sitting at 5 damage, and then they deal damage to you, and you're like, oh, I got a damage trigger, you lose.
See, I would think that there would have to be some kind of cost to have that, where it's like it deals 1 damage, but it also deals 1 damage to you, like it's a explosion or something like that.
Explosion
where both sides
trigger.
take 1 damage. Explosivo trigger, man.
So like I've heard a lot of people. I've discussed like the addition of more triggers with a couple of my friends, and like the one thing I heard from, I can't remember who brought it up originally, but is the if there was like a counter charge trigger, so you get the trigger and instead of healing a damage, you get to unflip a damage.
Oh,
That would be nice. Yeah. No, I could definitely see
and
that.
that seems pretty balanced. Whether you give that 5 or 10k shield is debatable, but that seems a lot more balanced than you take a damage automatically.
Well, and they're really promoting countercharge nowadays, because they really, they did boost up the damage zone as your power source, where all of these really good attacks and boosts and everything require that countercharge in some way, or counter blast in some way or other. And now they're introducing cards that give you that countercharge, either relatively simply, like a Dark Metal Chameleon in Link Jokers. It's just when it's unlocked, you countercharge, or more complicated, like the Perfect Guards that will give you a countercharge as long as there's another copy of that Perfect Guard in your drop zone. So yeah, I could definitely see like a countercharge trigger as something that's coming in. So how would that affect the game? Speed it up, slow it down?
Well, it would I think it would give clans like more opportunity, because it all depends on like if Bushiroad decided to make the trigger cap to keep it at 16, because it's at 16 so that you have the ability to run all 4 triggers, although most people don't, only run 3 of the 4 kinds, whether they use stands or draws. So if they were to add a 5th kind of trigger, then it all depends on if they gave you more space in your deck for triggers. But if they didn't, then I just think it all kind of depends, because you'd forego like either more crit triggers or draw triggers in order to take out, because a lot of decks play cards that countercharge as part of their effects so that they can have room. So like in my Kagero deck, I have like 4 cards that countercharge and all my Perfect Guards countercharge. So like it would give me space to kind of play other units that I don't need to take up space with the countercharging.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's Dark Metal Chameleon's not doing much for me except for the ability to countercharge. So, having that room for somebody who could do more games with locking and stuff like that would be worthwhile. So if we had the explosion trigger and it's one that did damage to both sides, what if it was like the suicide trigger and it's like you were at 5 damage and you're like, oh no, I know I've got 2 of those explosivos in there. I hope I don't draw this.
yeah.
It's like me when I like deck out on my drive checks.
Well, I think the thing is with that trigger is that it would never be implemented, so we don't have to worry about it.
Oh,
right.
I don't know. You don't know. All right, Jack. So since you seem to know so much about what's good and bad for this game, what did you come up with?
Oh, okay. So like one thing I've learned from playing the new kind of Kagero deck, where a lot of the mechanics kind of trigger on your opponent's turn, making the game kind of more interactive, where you can do stuff on your opponent's turn and your turn instead of just like sitting around doing nothing on your turn. I think it'd be more fun if Bushiroad implemented like more cards for each clan that kind of have abilities that behave during your opponent's turn, because I think it just makes it, because a lot of card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, you have trap cards and that kind of thing where you can play on your opponent's turn and your turn, and I think it just makes the whole dynamic of a card game more interesting. So like Kagero has all these cards where like you guard with them and they retire your opponent's unit, so you kind of get to, you still have to stay on your toes and think about what you want to do during your opponent's turn as well as your turn. So I think it just adds more layers of gameplay to the game that I really like, that Vanguard's kind of been missing for a long time.
I would
So
agree.
it would be like a Link Joker, where if I guard with the Link Joker, I get to lock whoever attacked me.
Kind of like that. I don't know if it's generally just that, but so like, well, I guess Dimension. No, Dimension. I'm thinking of something else. Never mind. Um, yeah, kind of like that, or like Gold Paladins have the thing with Gurgwit where it's you counterblast one, and you can check the cards from the top of your deck and call something to Guardian Circle. So it's like
Yeah,
that kind of thing where you play on your opponent's turn more so as well as your turn, which I just think is really fun.
So generally, creating a new mechanic that allows you to do more during your opponent's turn, rather than just watching them and saying, "Oh, please don't let them attack this thing because I can't do anything about it."
Exactly.
So Cole, what do you think about that?
I like that idea because there's no downside when you're attacking. Yeah, your attack might not go through, but there's no repercussions because you do get to drive check 2 or 3 or 4 depending on what kind of deck you're running, and there's no like worry like with Yu-Gi-Oh. You always have that worry: is that face down card a trap? Is that going to affect me? Is that going to destroy my entire field? And then in Magic, you also have your opponent can play instants from their hand and things like that. And I think that adds more depth to the gameplay, like Jack was saying, how it makes it more interactive, and it's not just like bam, bam, bam. Okay, hopefully they don't attack me. All right, they attack me. Now what am I going to do? Can I guard with that? Probably not. And then you pretty much just sit there and take it.
Here's an interesting variation on that. What if they introduced some sort of unit that, if you, and I think it actually would probably be along the lines of a Sentinel, but if you used it to guard, and it would probably have to have a higher cost as well, it immediately stopped all attacks from your opponent and ended their turn. I would love to see something like that, because for all of these like clans that sort of chain attack after attack after attack, and you're like, oh, because that attack was blocked, I can restand these 5 dudes and attack from the back row and this, that, and the other.
I think it would be more interesting if it was like a Sentinel, but instead of nullifying all attacks, it uh, retired the unit that just attacked. That wasn't the Vanguard.
Well, they
Well,
have
Kagero
that.
already has
Kagero
that.
has a lot of cards that do that.
But I mean, it would be not just the one clan, but it would be like for most. It
I
would
mean, I
spread
just
out
think
for
that
others.
doesn't. I think it just kind of goes with Kagero's mechanic more so. That's why they have it. Like Link Joker could have that where like they lock it and it just ends the battle. It'd be
Yeah,
kind of the
because
same thing. Yeah.
retiring is something that benefits some clans, so you might not want that to be your sole option, right? Right? If I'm playing against Granblue, I don't want to retire their people. I want to get their people stuck onto the rearguard circle so then I can lock them. Because obviously that was the problem I was having last night.
Yeah.
You're driving me nuts with your hollow cards going back into the drop zone, and I can't lock them.
Well, I can only, for the most part, I can only call them during the main phase. Yeah, there's a stride that lets me, or after I attack, then I could call. But if you're discarding or retiring that unit after it's attacked, then it's no longer on the field, and I don't think the ability would work with it.
I still like the idea of just shutting down all future attacks.
Yeah, I like that too, but as a variation.
Because that's their I'm gonna kind of relate this to Dragon Ball Z, the card game.
That's all right.
So,
we've already had a shout out to Yu-Gi-Oh, so Dragon Ball Z is
So-
perfectly fine.
So a lot of the cards in that game specifically, instead of them having a ban list, the cards like as they release them have the text printed on them: limit 1 per deck or limit 2 per deck, because you can use a maximum of 3 copies per card. So there's this one card, because the way combat works is you and your opponent exchange attacks until you both decide to stop attacking. And there's a card called Time is a Warrior's Tool, and you can only have 1 copy per deck. And it stops your opponent from attacking, and it stops all future attacks, but you can only play 1 per deck. So I think something like that would be kind of interesting if they implemented like more powerful Cray Elemental cards that you could only play like 1 per deck or 2 per deck of.
Well, that's why I said it would be a Sentinel, because they've already got that restriction that you can only have 4 Sentinels.
Well, but then you can play then you just play 4 of those things, and you just wouldn't play perfect guards ever. So I think you kind of need to be more restrictive than that.
Well,
probably.
but half the time, 2 of them are going to end up in your damage zone. And I was saying also that the cost for that would be even higher than a perfect guard cost. It's not discard a card from your hand. Maybe it's discard your entire hand. Something
that's
like
true.
that.
I still think it's. I still think you'd need more restriction than just making a sentinel.
And that's not unheard of in Vanguard, because there are some cards where you can only have 1 in your deck.
Yeah. Like I can't think of any examples right now.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't remember either.
But they do have some of those restrictions. Like there's a Royal Paladin that's Jewel Knight Sword Me, where you can only play that card in a Jewel Knight deck because it was getting abused by a bunch of other decks. So there's like, but the thing with that is Bushiroad had to wait to be positive that the cards were actually like really that powerful, and to go ahead and nerf the cards then after the fact. If the cards are printed beforehand with the knowledge that they are extremely powerful and they just have that limit on them, then I think that kind of makes it more interesting too.
Intriguing. So do you guys want to know what my idea was?
Absolutely.
Explosive triggers.
It is kind of funny that Cole and I both thought along the lines of triggers, because I also was thinking of triggers, and I think triggers are actually like an area that really just hasn't been touched, where many other things have been touched. I was thinking of a new kind of trigger, so really along the lines of what Cole was thinking, but not a new type of trigger. Well, I guess we're splitting hairs here. So I was thinking of dual triggers. So it's like a trigger that is both a stand and a crit trigger. And then when you pull it, you get to pick what you want it to be. Do you want it to be a stand trigger, or do you want it to be a crit trigger? And it can only be one of those things when it's being used as a trigger. And then possibly one that's like a draw and a heal trigger. And you can either use it as a draw trigger or a heal trigger, but not both. And that's kind of another thing that I was thinking of, because where this sort of originated was because it costs a heal trigger from your hand to use a G Guardian. I would like them to allow more heal triggers. And then I was thinking, how could they allow more heal triggers? Well, if you do these dual triggers, you're kind of mixing it up a little bit, and not having just plain pure heal triggers. And then maybe with dual triggers, cut down on the number of triggers that you're allowed. So maybe you're only allowed 8, but you're allowed 8 dual triggers. And then that gives you more options for putting in interesting types of grade 0s into your deck, because right now, all your grade 0s are your triggers. It's very rare to put anything in that's a grade 0 that's not a trigger, unless am I missing something?
No, there are a few builds that use multiple of their starters, but it's very rare to see those.
I can think of maybe 1 or 2 decks off the top of my head that use more grade 0s than just triggers.
But they exist.
But so not much. Yeah, they do exist. Mm-hmm. There's a couple decks. Yeah.
Well, not even a couple decks. There's like cards out there that are grade 0s that are neither starters nor triggers. They're out there. They just never get any use.
Exactly.
So, what do you think of the concept of a dual trigger?
I think I kind of like the idea, because you have the option, like, oh, you can play these cards that have flexibility and they can be whatever you need when you need them, or you have these, and then of course those triggers would probably not have to have no effects on them. And then you have like some of the new triggers that Bushiroad's printing, where they're like crit triggers or just stand triggers, but they have super powerful effects.
Oh yeah, like
that
Blink
make
Messiah,
it worth it,
right?
Blink Messiah, or there's a Dr. Refros and Angel Feathers, which are that's a really powerful trigger. And since that's just a stand trigger, you'd have the option of playing that, or you'd have the option of playing a vanilla trigger that's draw and stand, or something along those lines. So I think it's actually a pretty good idea that just allows for more versatility in the game, and it gives you more choices whether you want to play those triggers or the triggers with powerful effects.
So what do you think, Cole?
I agree. I think that'd be a good idea. But I don't know if I would have more heals, though, because I guess in the games that I've been playing, the heal triggers haven't mattered since they introduced G Guardians. Instead of actually healing a damage that I've taken, I've just outright blocked more than one. So to me, I don't know if I would add more heal triggers capability, but I do like the idea of the dual triggers. I think that's a pretty interesting way to add variety to the game.
Without changing it up too much, right? It's just
without changing it,
giving you that slight modification, a different way of thinking about things. And it's like maybe I think probably if you did statistical analysis, I think draw triggers are used the least. I might be wrong.
Followed by stand. Draw. I'd say draw followed by stand.
Yeah. I mean,
no, I think. Well, the thing is, like, Bushiroad's been kind of pushing for stand triggers a lot more lately because a lot of the stand triggers have such powerful effects that they're worth running, even though they're stand triggers. Like, most of the time, you don't even use them because they're stand triggers. Their effects are just really powerful that you play them over draw triggers. Because draw triggers only have the 5,000 shield, and that's it.
So they are taking up space in the number of triggers you can have, though. So
exactly.
So
I think it just all depends on the deck you're playing.
Cole, what were you thinking as another one that you didn't fully flesh out?
Well, I had the very brief idea that instead of like a G Guardian, you'd play it on your opponent's turn. So kind of like what Jack was saying, it would come from your G deck, and it would last that turn, and it would give it a permanent shield. I think I hadn't really fleshed that out yet, but it would give your Vanguard an extra effect, and it might not actually be power, but just if you can block the attack, then something else would happen.
Oh, so it's kind of just like more variance in the G zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I really like the inclusion of the G Guardians, because now you have extra threats like Dismal, the Dark Element Dismal. Because some people don't know if you're going to run that or not. Then boom, you try to target there, and then you can't, and then boom.
So what I would extrapolate from that is, like, we have things or skills that trigger on hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
On a successful hit. Maybe they could add a skill that triggers on a successful block, right? So it encourages you to do that full no many triggers pulled to pass combo that's outside of a sentinel, but you're really like doing a super block, and then you get a benefit for actually doing that super block versus just throwing all of your cards into the drop zone to make sure that an attack doesn't go through. Like, I don't know, you successfully block and it deals 1 damage to your opponent. That would be OP, but it could be something else. I mean, it'd be like the curse of Oracle Think Tank is like, you successfully block an attack, you draw a card. Like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Something that'd be interesting. So one of the other ideas I had was, still thinking along the lines of triggers, was a rainbow trigger. And actually that kind of came from, I think it was Micah. I was having a conversation with him. But a trigger that could be anything, and just, like when you trigger it, you just declare what it's going to be, and it can be whatever you most need at that point in time.
What if it was a Crate Elemental trigger?
That could be anything?
Yeah.
I think at that point you'd have to make that a Sentinel, because that doesn't sound super broken. But if you were allowed to play, like, I think you'd have to choose between, like, say you play 2 Perfect Guards and 2 Rainbow triggers.
Well, let me put it this way: you can either play heal triggers or rainbow triggers, and you can only have 4.
I still think you'd pick rainbow triggers, because why would you play heal triggers unless they had like a really bad downside?
You can't use rainbow triggers for G Guardians.
Oh.
Because they are basically a nothing card unless they are a trigger.
Oh, okay.
I think it should also cost something too, maybe. Like a Sentinel, where you'd have to discard a card.
Well, no,
I could see that, but
I like the idea that the cost is that if it's not a trigger, it's like either like no power, or it's really just like the most vanilla card possible. it only has power when it activates as a trigger. So you
Okay.
can't use it for a G Guardian. If you use
It
it to
has no
boost, it's going to
shield.
be like a pretty crummy boost. Hey, maybe it has no shield, although that's really harsh. Man, but yeah, there's like 5,000 shield triggers out there that are already pretty crummy.
Yeah.
True.
Boy,
Draw
Bushiroad,
trigger.
get on this. Give us some rainbow triggers, man. I mean, right? Like Pokemon has like rainbow energy and colorless energy and what are the other
Double colorless energy.
of course.
Triple colorless energy.
No, that would be too.
They've
OP.
definitely had triple energies before, though.
They'd have to
They
be
had
with some sort of penalty to them.
Yeah, there's the dragon energies too. But...
Hey! This is not a Pokemon podcast. This is anything but a Pokemon podcast. This is a Cardfight Vanguard podcast.
Full heal energy, potion energy, darkness energy, metal energy, recycle energy, miracle energy, boost energy, crystal energy.
There's so
warp
many.
Energy,
There's so
bounce
many. You're
energy,
gonna like spend
cyclone
a half hour
energy,
going through all
retro
of them.
energy, multi energy, double rainbow energy, aqua energy, magma energy, dark metal energy, R energy, heal
Somebody
energy,
boot him from
Gramble
the
energy
conversation.
He started it.
Oh, that's right. He's got us trapped. All right, Jack, did you have any ideas that you rejected?
just because like the idea of, because Bushiroad has the whole concept of clan fighting where you can only use clans from one particular clan without like with a couple of exceptions with like you can play Blaster Darks in your Majesty Lord Blaster deck and you can play reverse units in your Omega Glendios deck.
No, you can play reverse units in any Link Joker deck. They just don't do anything for you.
Is that the case, really?
Yeah, that's the ruling.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So I just find the concept of like mixing clans really interesting, and it kind of leads to more kind of deck building than you would have if you were limited to one clan. So I think if like they introduced another card where you it allows you to play cards from multiple clans, because there's some like broken combos that can happen when you just leave it open to playing cards from any clan with any clan. Yeah, but I think if there was like another like mechanic that allowed you to do, that concept really intrigues me a lot, and I just think it'd be more interesting if that was the case. Like if they introduced like the next boss card where you had to play like a card from every clan or something like that.
Well, there's 24 clans, so that wouldn't be possible, but one card from a different clan, each one. But that's how the game started out. I mean, it started out as like play whatever clan combinations as you want to play, and then they put the lockdown on that, and they were like,
well, because there was some, I think, I'm not sure when it started, but like I know there's definitely a couple of busted combinations that I can think of that guarantee you like 7 Vanguard attacks in one turn. So
yeah, that's well, if there's some way they could work around it.
I just think it allows for more kind of deck building and it allows you to think more when you're building decks, and I think that's just more fun than just being forced to use one clan.
That's why it takes you back to more of the Pokemon model where it's like, hey, you can throw any Pokemon you want in here. It may work, it may not work, and we'll see how it goes with time. But then they might have to do rotations at that point in time. All right. So I think we'd all enjoy if people have ideas for ways of changing up the game. If they want to send them to us, I guess still at Twitter. We don't have an email account yet. Actually, you know what? People, if you want to email me your ideas for ways to change up Vanguard, we will cross the streams, as they say in Ghostbusters. Wow, that movie's coming out soon too.
Yep.
Send me an email at it's Will WILL at PKMNCAST.com. Will at PokemonCast.com.
I didn't know this was the Pokemon cast. Should I go back to reading energies off?
Would you stop? We are just related. We are siblings, as we discussed earlier in this episode. Sibling podcasts. But yeah, I'd like to hear ideas from people on how to change up the game. And maybe we'll go through them in one of our later episodes if anybody has any real cool or interesting ideas. So send them. It's Will at PKMNcast.com. And we didn't have a term of the week until about 5 seconds ago. So somebody has selected Cray Elemental. We've brought that up a few times in this episode. So we should give a better description of what that means, especially for new players. I think overall, we have the 24 defined clans of the planet Cray. And then you have the Cray Elementals, which are cards that can be used to support any clan. Generally, so they can be put into any deck. Sometimes they do really good stuff. Sometimes they're not that great. But they're just like a tool deck type set of cards and non-clan that can be included anywhere. So what would you say to describe Cray Elementals, Cole?
The strides are really cool. There's in their names, they kind of bounce in between the elemental and elements, and they're also kind of personify. I don't like one that's coming to my mind right now is there's this rock one, and it's just a boulder that kind of looks like a human, sort of, but it looks really cute. And then you've got Seabreeze, which is the I think the newest Cray Elemental stride, which looks like a cute little air thing. Basically, they look cute or they look really powerful, but they don't look quite humanoid. Kind of like amorphous, I think that's the word.
Well, they're intended to be like a personalization of the actual elements, and by elements we mean things like wind, rain, snow, earth, darkness, metal. How do you describe the Cray Elementals, Jack? You've seen them since their birth. Who was the first Cray Elemental?
Neon Messiah, or not the whatever one.
Harmonix Messiah.
Not Neon, Harmonix Messiah. That one.
Yes, born from the planet Cray and the seeds of the Link Jokers, Harmonix
Which
Messiah.
is real.
Yes.
Planet Cray is
well,
real.
you are the planet Cray, so
exactly
speaking to us.
So I gave birth to Harmonix
Messiah. So Harmonix Messiah is literally a stride that can be used in any deck, and it has no skills. All it does is give you plus 16,000 on your attack and triple drive.
Yep, and so it's not that good.
Hey, it's good if you need to throw something in your deck so you have a G zone of some sort.
Well, it's good for Messiah players too, I guess, because they have
they have to
Messiah
have a Messiah
cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's another Cray Elemental. It's like a fire one.
Yeah, there's a couple.
16.
Oh, I don't know I think it has 15. The heat element something.
I know for sure one has 16. There's a stride that has a 16. And it's red. I can't remember what it is.
The most famous Cray Elemental stride is Ol' Blizza.
Yeah, Blizza, Atmos.
Madu. But I think Blizza is the big one because it's like for every face-up card in your G zone, it gets plus 5,000. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On its attack. So.
And then there's I think probably the most important ones are the ones that were just released in the Fighters Collection, which would be Seabreeze and then Dismal and Screw You.
And Hyako?
Hyako came in 07.
Yeah, and Hyako is Hyako is the most recent Cray Elemental, and that's the one that powers a Mega Blast, where you would need to do a counter blast for Soul Blast 8. 6 to accomplish something, or 5, something like that. So what does Dismal do?
So you G-guard with it, and then you choose one of your rear guards and you give it resist, and then it cannot be attacked for the rest of the turn. And it has 15k shield. So basically, in a deck where your rear guards are really important, so like Angel Feathers with a Nurse of Broken Heart, you want to protect that rear guard, and then some older OTT builds with Silent Tom. But I don't know if I'd give that as an example, because Silent Tom's not super great anymore.
Yes, he is. Do not take away from Silent Tom. He is always king.
What
about Scryu?
Scryu is you discard a card and then you gain 10 to the shield.
So Scryu is a G Guardian that
I
you
think,
just discard 1, but it goes up to 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Scryu's kind of outclassed by Dismal, though.
Also, the
And that's why
problem with Scryu is you can't. He's a GB1, so you can't use him unless you've already gotten into the G zone. So
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
But so Dismal, and so that's why Dismal and Seabreeze are starting to go up in price a little bit, and then Scryu's kind of settling around at like $4, $5, I think.
Yeah, and Seabreeze is the one where if your opponent is either grade locked at 2 and they choose not to G assist, or they're intentionally staying at grade 2 to keep you from going into
even
the
if
G
they
zone.
do. Yeah, even if they do G assist, though, they can still miss the G assist and still be stuck on grade 2, and you can still ride Seabreeze.
If for whatever reason they're stuck at grade 2 for 2 turns, then you can use Seabreeze, which opens up your G zone for a G zone triple drive attack, at least for once. I don't think anybody has more than 1 Seabreeze in their
Yeah,
G zone.
you shouldn't play more than 1 Seabreeze.
But there are also.
I mean, I have multiple copies. Yeah. I just play them in different decks.
There are all sorts of Cray Elementals. They're not only for striding. They're not only grade 4s. There's grade 1, 2s. I don't know if there's a 3, but they do all sorts of toolboxy things depending on what you might need. And I think it's worth looking at them so that you understand what those options are. So when you're deck building, you don't forget that you have the Cray Elementals as an option. For example, the Rock Cray Elemental that Cole was talking about actually unlocks your cards. So if you know, like in your local league, you have somebody who is a heavy Link Joker player and is locking you up all the time, and you're not a Gold Paladin player or a Royal Paladin player with that card that does the unlocking, you can tech in that Rock Cray Elemental so that you'll have an opportunity to unlock your own field when you are locked up. It gives you that out. All right, anything else to say on Cray Elementals?
Some of them are really good. Most of them are not good.
Do you agree, Cole?
Yeah, I agree. There's also a perfect guard promo for that.
A Cray Elemental perfect guard. Intriguing.
That was my first promo I ever got when I went to the store.
Nice. That's why you got sucked into Vanguard, man.
Yep, that free promo, man. Keep coming back every week.
All right, I'm going to end as we do every week, asking folks to please give us reviews in iTunes so that we can gain notice and have more listeners over time. And I do appreciate everyone who has written a brief review in iTunes. We actually do read those and talk about them, give us ideas for what we need to do with the program. I just want to say thank you to SBJ and Nick Burgess. Nick Burgess is the one who has made our music, and if you want to buy his music, it is available on the Apple Music Store thingy. So besides my email where I asked you guys to submit ideas, which was will@pkmncast.com, if you want to contact us on Twitter, the main Twitter for the program is @DriveCheck. That's @drive_check. And then my personal Twitter is @WashInTheSink. Cole, you are?
I'm at Cole_McCune. That's COLE_MCCUNE.
And I am at Drive_Jack.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Drive Check Podcast. Beat the street and find a job. What does that mean again?
Beat the street? That's like when you go out and you like pound the pavement to go and get a job.
Like when you go out on the street and beat the people.
No.
That's where you fade later.
Yup.